Hey everyone, Josephine here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you what I read in July. So in July, I tackled a total of 10 books, one of which I DNF'd, and I will talk about that one. The majority were adult books. There was just one middle grade in there. And then the majority from a genre perspective was fantasy. There's just one fiction, 2 romance, and 1 nonfiction in the middle of it. The authors came from all over the place, so I had actually a really good month with 6 books being from US authors and 4 books being from non-US authors. It was Canada, Saudi Arabia, and New Zealand instead. The majority of my books were between like 300 and 400 pages. I had like 2 a bit chunkier books that I've actually read. And let's just talk about them. So my month started off really great. I read Mirror Sight, which is book 5 of the Green Rider series. And I probably mentioned that in pretty much every video that 1, Green Rider, the series, is my favorite series of all time. And 2, that I'm currently reading 1 book per month in anticipation of book 7 coming out in September. Yay! And book 5 was great. So if you've never heard of the Green Rider series, and you're going onto Goodreads or Amazon or whatever your review site of choice is, and you're reading the reviews of book 5, you would think that she completely messed up, with she being the author, Kristen Britton. You would think that this book is incredibly bad, that she destroyed the story, that whatever she did was the worst. But I'm telling you, I've read the book for the 2nd time now, and I'm so glad I'm rereading all of this because boy is this book good. It's so awesome. It's so brilliant what Kristen Britton has done with this series because of this book. So Green Rider, just in case you've never heard of it, our main character Kerrigan so the first 4 books is kind of a coming of age story. She runs away from school and she stumbles over a rider that is kind of dying. He has 2 arrows in his back and he's about to die. But before he dies, he gets her to promise that she brings his meal to King Zachary and basically, fulfills his mission. So she takes the horse and she jumps right into the adventure. And that's kind of how all the books are. It starts off, book 1 starts off like that. And I will do a whole book review of the whole series. So I'm not going into detail, but it's all the classic fantasy story. And book 5 takes it into a whole new direction. It's really unique. Something that I haven't seen in other epic fantasy stories, and I can totally understand why diehard fans might not like it as much, because again, it takes it away from that epic typical fantasy type of thing, and I really hope that we will see more tied in versions in the upcoming books. So that was already a great start for July. Book 5 of the series. I can't wait to continue. I cannot wait for book 7 to come out. It has been a little bit, so I'm really, really excited about it. Book 2 that I read in July was The Handmaid's Tale. That was something that I read together with a colleague. So I'm on an irregular basis, I'm meeting with 1 and 2 of my colleagues. We just talk about books, what we've read. And the last time we met, we said, you know what? We've had The Handmaid's Tale on our list to read for quite some time. And we then, in the last meeting, just said, you know what? Let's just read it. And that was one of those books that I definitely had to sit with for a little bit. It's not necessarily an easy read. And if you think about it, it's kind of scary how close to home it hits. It's not a book where you're like, oh, this is, so far off. This will never happen. It's so unrealistic. It's not. It feels like something that could actually happen. But this book definitely added Margaret Atwood to my list of authors I need to read more from. I want to read The Testament, which is the 2nd book in the series, and even though there are very mixed reviews on that, I want to see how she continued the series, especially since she wrote it quite some time after The Handmaid's Tale. And then there are other books from Margaret Atwood that I already have on my wish list that I want to go through. I definitely want to read her backlist. I think she's an amazing author, and her writing style is just great. Her worlds are great. She really has a way of pulling you into a story where you actually think like, oh yeah, that is very dystopian and very far away. And after you read it, I'm like, all right, this is actually not that far away. I could totally see this happening in our society. Scary stuff. The 3rd book that I read was actually an audiobook, Wings of Fire, which is a middle grade story. After listening to it, I'm not sure I could actually summarize what's happening. It had dragons in it. That's pretty much all I remember. That was the purpose, though, for this audiobook for me. I just needed something that I could listen to on the side while I'm at work. What I found weird, though, every time when I listened up, there was a lot of death and blood and murder and competition going on. And I found that a bit curious for a book that is for like 8 to 10-year-olds. I don't know if I would give that my kid. So that's the only thing I really remember about it. Next up, I read When Stars Collide, because after The Handmaid's Tale, I really needed something just simple. It's the latest book from Susan Elizabeth Phillips, who is a romance author, and this is the latest book in the Chicago Stars series, which I really liked from her. So this is one of my favorite romance series. It's about an imaginary football team called the Chicago Stars, and all the books in the series, which this is book 9 from, are about one of the players and how they find the love of their life. And it's just, it's just cute. It's easy entertainment. I love her books, and I picked them up multiple times. So she's one of those authors that I've reread over the years and that I just really enjoy. So I'm glad I got to pick this up, and this is probably going to be reread at one point in my life too. The next book that I attempted was a DNF after 160 something pages, and I apologize for all you lovers of this particular series out there, but I just couldn't stand it anymore. So I've tried reading book 2 of the Great Crit series, which is The Night's Shadow. I've read Trader's Blade in April or May, I think, and thought it was okay-ish. There were a lot of convenient situations. The main character was a bit whiny for my taste, and it was just, the ending was, so I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to continue, but everybody assured me that everything will be explained at the end, and it's an amazing series, and it's going to be a mind-blowing ending. So I was like, alrighty, I'll give it a try. Usually I'm not like this. Usually if you can't get me with the first books, and I already had to slog through 400 some odd pages and end up with a meh feeling, I won't continue. But anyway, everybody said, it's great, it's awesome, best series ever read, whatnot. And I'm sorry, no, it's not. That main character, I couldn't take him anymore. He is so self-righteous. He's so naive. He is so, I don't know, there are so many words that I want to describe him with. I just couldn't stand him anymore. He has no clue what's going on in life, and he doesn't accept any feedback. He doesn't accept that other people might be smarter than him. No, he rather calls them idiots. So, no. No, I'm DMFing the series. I'm done. I'm sorry. I understand you like the series. I'm not, I don't know. No. Then, though, I picked up a really great epic fantasy, or the beginning of an epic fantasy story. I have a separate review for that, so I'm not going into detail, but it's Gunmetal Gods by Zamil Akhtar, which is a combination of Arabian Nights, Game of Thrones, and Lovecraft, and it was awesome. I loved the book. It was a really fast-paced read, so I didn't have a time to put it down or to think about anything. Like, things were happening one after another, and it was great. So I highly recommend this book if you like bleak, dark fantasy. Then, I don't know what happened at the end of July, but I got a recommendation. I don't even know if it was Amazon or if it was Kindle or if it was on Goodreads. I mean, at the end of the day, all of these are Amazon. But somehow I saw The Declaration of the Rights of Magicians. And I love this title and the cover so much. It's the first book in a duology, and it's a retelling of the French Revolution and the Jamaican slave uprising in 1780 something till 1790 something. So that's kind of the time frame. And from the little I know, and from the bits that I Google to just check how close is it to reality, it is pretty close to the actual timeline of those two events. Rather than, so the French Revolution part, rather than it being the people asking for freedom, it's magicians asking for freedom, right? The common magician is not allowed to use their magic in everyday life, and the revolution now is all of a sudden about them being allowed to do that, and them giving them the rights to use their magic. The writing style is amazing. Just the words used are amazing. The story itself is so heartwarming and just great. I mean, I don't think I've ever read such a slow fantasy story. And I don't mean slow as a negative here, right? It's just a following along of something that you're familiar with, but she puts a magical spin on it. I don't know. I was just so surprised and so excited about it that I got my fingers on book 2 already, and that will continue, as you've probably seen in my August TBR, that will continue in August. And then I read, or listened to rather, to another audiobook on the side. It was just a quick, easy romance called Once Upon a Royal Summer, and I just love romance stories that play somehow with the commoner falls in love with a royal. And I love those movies. I watch them all the time. I just think it's great. And this one was awesome. I really loved the narration. It was a quick audiobook, I think 6 hours, 7 hours. And it was just a lot of fun. And it was just cute. And oh my God, I fell in love with the characters. And it was just adorable. But it's a typical story. In this case, our main character dresses up as a princess in a theme park in Florida called Once Upon a Time, and she plays Princess P, I think is her name. I'm terrible with names always of characters. If there's something I forget immediately, it's names. She loves it. It's her dream job. And then you have our prince, who lives in a random kingdom, probably somewhere in Europe, with a made-up name, who just wants to get away from the royal palace and needs just some life. He just wants to, be himself for a little bit. The typical story. He has a daughter, I think she's 6 or 7, and they two just, travel to Florida. And they meet each other in that Once Upon a Time amusement park, and from there it goes. So that's the love story, and it's fun. So sorry for that weird cut. I actually got distracted, so I had to stop recording yesterday. So I'm recording the last book. Dramatic entry for the last book, which was a nonfiction, and that was also part of a work thing. And one of my team members, she set up a talk about the book White Fragility, why it is so hard for white people to talk about racism. And I read this book for the talk because I wanted to be prepared. And this is actually a topic in general, culture in general, that I'm very interested in. While this is not necessarily my favorite book on the topic, it was really interesting and I got a lot of information out of it. This particular book, while it definitely made me think and it was definitely eye-opening, it described situations that I'm even at fault at and that I want to work on going forward. But the book spends the majority of the time just reiterating this issue and then not providing anything that tells me as a white person, okay, so what now? You know what I mean? I'm actually contemplating if I want to do a book review on this particular book, just because it's a topic I'm very interested in. Plus, I think it would be interesting to learn more about all of those books that are out there. If you're interested in that, let me know. Then I will prioritize that. All right, that's it with my July wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for joining in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.